first thing I say is like, show me your presets and your book bonus. And your presets are going to be basically like, it's the same thing you see all the time, but it's going to let me see, each team, where the holes are, what heroes they do not have, what weapons they don't have, what their itemization bonuses are. What their itemization is. Are they putting some goofy stuff in there? Do they have the right merch? Stuff like that. But it lets me kind of at a glance go, this person kind of knows what they're talking about. This person really knows what they're talking about. Whenever I see this person really knows what they're talking about, I'm less interested. Unless they're doing absurd damage, right? Because if they're doing crappy damage and they've got everything in the right place, they're just not playing right, which is harder to fix than they're just not knowledgeable on something. Because, I like improving the stats, and then the person's already playing right, great. So that being said, the first thing I look for is what heroes do you not have, right? So I want to make sure that Coco's built, Knight is built. I want to make sure that Yuze, Ray, and Lilith are on that account, because they will be in a third of every single raid you're ever in. They will always be in a raid for the next whoever knows how long. They can literally put a fourth character on there of any element, and they will be a badass against whatever element. They're just crazy, right? So they need those characters. Those are just crucial. They need to have Yuze's weapon, a few other things, right? If I don't see they have Claude on the account, I'm going to ask, because Claude is your quick step into expedition loot. So if they don't have Claude, they're going to be a while before they get relics. So there are certain key heroes that I ask about, right? And then immediately I look at it and I go, how many people do they need? What do they need? What are the banners that are now and coming up? I go, the cost associated to this stuff is specific, right? So there's cost in coffee, right, which is money, right? And then there's cost in gems, which is also money. Coffee is what you use to evolve the characters to 5-star, and gems are what you use to buy Awakening Stone runs. Because you're going to be doing Awakening Dungeon runs excessively, over your 3 a day to quickly progress if you need to. You're definitely going to be doing it on the attack days, because early on, for raids, they only really care about attack bonuses. They don't care about the other stuff. So getting extra attack would be great. And then eventually, you just give enough hit points or HP and defense nodes on the Awakening board just to get you to the point where you can effectively raid without dying. And if you start dying, that's when you start, on whatever character you die on, that's when you start actually adding in the defensive and HP nodes on those Awakening stone boards. So gem and coffee right there. So I immediately go, okay, there's a lot of heroes. How much gem and coffee am I going to need to get that account up? And then, the way you can do that is you buy packs of coffee, $5 for 500 stam or $10 for 1,000 stam. They come, every content update has one. But, and then gems are obviously, there's tons of gem packages all the time. So if the person's willing to progress that fast, that's a big thing, right? Those are the things I do. And that's what I would cover in the heroes kind of preparation stage. As far as itemization goes, immediately I'm going to look at the X weapons that those characters don't have, right? Some X weapons are more important than others. Let's say Yuze's is super important because she uses that a lot, even against elements that it's not an elemental advantage on. Somebody like, let's say, Ray's is important whenever you're fighting Earth, and super important when you're fighting Earth, but she's not going to be using that weapon on other times, right? Or Tenia or Nari, right? Nari, when you're fighting basic, yeah, she's going to use her X. Anything else, she's not going to use her X. She's going to use an off-element weapon. That's just how it is, right? So some X is more important. Obviously, you're going to do that with gems. You're going to buy those with gems. Other itemization, accessories, right? So accessories are pretty easy, and it kind of goes in tiers, right? Your first accessory for your leader is going to be a golden pocket watch, which is super easy to get, and most likely, I know there's a lot of quest rewards. You should have at least one of those by the time you get to raid ready. Step up from that and kind of optimally, you're going to want a Minotaur necklace, which you get from battle medals, or an Ice Queen necklace, or a ring, whatever it is, and that you just get from random drops. So, might not have one of those. Minotaur necklace, though, you're going to get from 600 battle medals, so it takes like, let's say 3 weeks to get one of those. And you're going to need 6 of those, one for each element. So it's going to be like a basic hero would use a Minotaur necklace with plus basic damage. You're going to want that for each element that you have a team for. And then people do use mirror necklaces or mirror rings, and that's cool if you actually have the max weapon skill damage and skill damage on it. But I will say this, like, the main thing with Minotaur necklaces is you get them passively from doing content. You don't spend resources, you get them. They may take a little longer, but you don't spend resources to get them. You get them passively from doing co-op, which you're doing for gems, or doing Coliseum, which you're doing for gems, or Arena, which you're doing for gems. But you actually get the battle medals from that, and that's how you passively obtain a Minotaur necklace. For mirror stuff, you're spending coffee to obtain them. And then after you obtain them, you have to spend a lot more option stones to get the right rolls. I mean, a lot. So it's not very conducive, right? It's not very resource efficient. So I would not use mirror stuff at all, ever, for raids. I would always go Minotaur necklace. You know when you're going to get it. It may take a little longer, but you're not going to need to put option stones in it. And I'll tell you why that's important in the next section. For followers, though, in tiers, the first tier you have like green necklace, wolf ring, stuff like that. Second tier, sharpshooters, and this is kind of the go-to for the vast majority of the raiding community. Sharpshooters are essentially unique merch. You probably got a few of them already. You need 3 of them total, right? 1 for each follower. And once you get your 3 total, then you start building them up. So you MLB, so another 5 of them on one of those will get you an MLB sharpshooter, and that will add 5% more crit, which is massive. So that's your next step, is MLBing 3 sharpshooters. You get 3 sharpshooters, and then you MLB 3 sharpshooters. They're not super uncommon, they're not super rare to get, so that will happen passively over time. The next step up from sharpshooters is sniper goggles, which are yellow, which are a lot harder to get, but they're also better. And they're going to become, over time, what you're going for. But I really wouldn't worry too much about that, and especially yellow hammering them, because you're going to want those for a little bit. Going back into the option stone discussion, as we talked about with mirrors and not using them on mirrors, you're going to want to max your weapon damage out. So in other words, let's say you go for prioritization of damage, right? So if Garum does a lot of damage and Eleanor does a very little damage, you're going to want to use option stones on Garum's first to max that weapon damage out, and then eventually go to Eleanor and max that weapon damage out. The main point is, like, there are 2 raiders in every team that actually does really well on the damage, which you can see at the end of the fight. And you're going to basically want to eventually you're going to want to max all weapon damage out from any X that you get, and what will eventually happen is every time you obtain a new X that you use for Raider, you'll just quickly max their weapon damage on the option stone, and then it's not going to be a big deal. But right now you're probably going to front load a lot of those option stones into maxing that weapon skill damage, and that will be a massive increase in damage most likely for you as a raid team, like a massive one. So that's huge. So buying option stones, if you can, that's a boost. That's a big boost. You definitely want to do that. And then, so you're going to be using a lot of those just right off the bat. Your merch itemization, pretty simple. Statues and motherships. That's the only thing that you care about as a raider. You don't care about anything else. That's all there is to it. Make sure you get a 5-star statue, then a 5-star mothership, 5-star statue, 5-star mothership. Just understand that 2 characters will do the bulk of the damage on a team. You give them the 5-star stuff, and then maybe you get like a 3-star, then 3-star, then 3-star. Then you get like a 1-star, and 1-star, and 1-star, and 1-star. So 1 statue, 1 mothership, 1 statue, 1 mothership, and then you build it up. So 2-star statue, 2-star mothership, 2-star statues, 2-star mothership, and then just build it up like that, like you alternate. Now, if you have every bit of control of the time of day you're playing on, like you're at the computer, the raids happen, and like you can always be available, and this happens more so in higher level raid guilds, but you can always be available when it's below 50%, and you just want to go 4 statues, that's great. But at the lower raid guilds, an entire round will last an entire 2 days. So you're not really you're gonna want to alternate them, because you can't really pick and choose throughout the day if you're gonna do it below 50% or above 50%. But you have that luxury later on the higher progress guilds. Now, relics. Relics are kind of tricky, right? Like you only care about relics once you can actually use the forge, which I think you have to do in 13.3. Or I'm sorry, once you hit 13.3 and do that quest, you can then use the forge. Now, relics are important. They're also hard to get. And there's entire videos I've made about how to get them. But the first thing you want to do is like once you can get to the forge and all that stuff, you get normal relics, then eventually you'll get your rare relics, and then eventually you'll get your unique offensive relics. You only really care about 2 types of relics, and that's Holy Vows, which are the books, and then the Eternal Unity, which are the chalice, the cups. Eternal Unity is crit, and Holy Vow is attack, but it's more like party bonus attack, rather. In other words, like it's not like the normal attack stat that you usually see. But those are your offensive ones. And what you really want to do is use whichever the 2 you find better stats on, because it's all about what you get, right? Eventually you're going to want, the creme de la creme is having, like normal has 1 stat that you get that gets rolled for you. Rare has 1 stat that gets rolled for you, just a little bit more. And then unique has 2 potential stats. Or definitely has 2 stats, but it could be defense and HP, skill, attack, crit. And really what you want is 2 offensive stats on your relic. That's not going to happen for a long, long, long time, though. So you just work with what you got. But you always, for raids, plus 5% or better, up to 7, damage to boss monsters. That's the only thing you care about. So just get your offensive relics and get your damage to boss monster. You're going to be good. So now we're in the priorities and growth section, and I've separated this out into the currencies that you have to spend. So gems, coffee, battle medals, and merch. So gems. So gems is for heroes, awakening stones, attack costumes, attack weapons, costumes. The main thing here is that if you need to get your heroes, you're going to get them with gems. Awakening stones, if you're lower in the game or you're unprogressed, or you really just need to quickly get stones for your heroes, you're going to do it with gems. If you've got your heroes that you need and you're good on gems, buy the attack costumes that are current in the shop. And this is kind of crucial, right? Because like attack costumes for the set bonus can cost anywhere from like 2,000 to 4,000 gems a bonus. But you will have to collect a bonus over a course of about a year to get all the bonuses. So it's valuable. It's super valuable. You're going to be wanting to do that. It just takes a little while. It just does. So that's up to you. That's your gem spend, right? Your coffee, which is the far more complex. And the way we're going to do this is priorities, right? So first off, your coffee, your evolution dungeon, you will, if you need to evolve heroes still, evolution dungeon, you need to do it 10 times a day for that boosted bonus. You're going to get like 50 stones out of it for your unique hero. That's huge, right? So if you don't need to, like after that, you still have coffee to burn that day, just make sure you have a golden pocket watch and 3 offensive accessories, which is like greed ring, wolf ring, hopefully sharpshooters, whatever. Now, most likely, you've played through the game at this point, you've already got that step done. You probably have your golden pocket watch or minotaur necklace or whatever it is. You've already got the item dungeons out of your way. Move on to if you can actually get to the forge in Expedition, get a set of offensive relics, right? Holy Vow, Eternal Unity. Just get a set. Just a normal set. It doesn't have to have any rares or uniques in it. So, okay, if you've got your normal relics, you've got your offensive accessories, and you need some more Evo dungeon runs, do it. You know, get your heroes, get your Evo dungeon runs in, get the heroes you have up, because them being 5 stars more important than everything else, really. So now let's say you've got your heroes up, you've got all the heroes you need, 5 star, you're going to push the rest of your coffee into a rare set of offensive relics in Expedition. And you're obviously putting damage to boss monsters on that. That's great. That's what you're doing. Now let's say you've got all the heroes evolved. You've got your rare set of offensive relics, and you've got offensive accessories. Then you're probably going to go into item dungeons until you get either 3 sharpshooters, or you've started to work on the MLB. You need 3 sharpshooters. That's crucial. That's going to be your next bump in damage, right? And then after that, depending on where you are and things, you can do the Horizon Towers, which will cost 2,400 coffee for 6 yellow hammers, which are going to come in handy because you're going to use those MLB. Now, that's a decent amount of coffee. You don't have to do this directly in order, but 6 yellow hammers is pretty good. There's other stuff you get along the way in there, but 6 yellow hammers is pretty damn good, and they're hard to get normally. So, then if you've got your Horizon Towers, your items, your sharpshooters, your relics, then you might try to start getting some 1-stat offensive relics. Now keep in mind, 1-stat unique offensive relics. Keep in mind that running expeditions takes a lot of coffee. It's not a small amount. It's a huge amount of coffee. So that's important to note. So if you've got decent enough rare relics, you can skip that step because it might take a little while to get the offensive relics. And then let's say you've gotten through all these steps. You're good on everything here. The final, like right now, I'll give you my example. On my account, I've gotten a full set of offensive relics. I've gotten all those other things above it. And what I'm about to do is go back to the item dungeon, and that will be where I sit unless I need to spend coffee on anything else. And the reason why I'm going to sit, like unless a new raider is introduced, like Miss Chrome, I'll probably actually build her up. She's got an attack bonus, but I'm probably going to sit on item dungeon and gold dungeon for a little while. In fact, I do the gold dungeon 10 times boosted a day, which is 1,000,000 gold, and then I'd run item dungeons for the rest of the coffee because I want more green hammers. More green hammers equals more damage, and eventually that is where you're going to spend your coffee. But that's your prioritization. Also, another currency, just real quick, option stones. Like I said, option stones are going to go to, first and foremost, making sure your Minotaur necklaces have highest possible weapon skill regen. And then putting it into the weapons to make sure they have the leaders have highest possible weapon skill regen. Lock that in, the weapon skill regen or the damage, whichever you want to get first, but you gotta have max weapons damage, weapon skill regen. Like lock one of those two in, and hopefully your skill damage got a decent roll along the way. You're gonna want to do that with basically every item. It's really, 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 really easy to max the attack and skill damage on sharpshooters too. Super easy with option stones. Like less than 5, you'll probably do it. So that's good, and that will be basically helpful for every single raider ever. But yeah. Next one, battle medals. They're time gated, right? So just take time on these. As I said before, you want to get 6 Minotaur necklaces, and then you're going to buy your attack costumes. And then you're going to MLB all the Minals, or all those Minotaur necklaces. Do it in order of which teams do the highest damage. And then merch, statues and motherships. That's pretty easy, right? You just do the statues and motherships. That's all there is to it. And those are your, that's your growth, and you're planning on that. And that's pretty much the video there. And honestly, in all honesty, if you've been watching for 20 plus minutes here, or listening, because all I'm doing is talking about my boring Guardian Tales stat overview, you're probably somebody we would want in our guild, just because you're more dedicated to growth. And most likely you can execute it properly. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of questions on this video, and that's totally fine. But I mean, that's kind of how we do it, and that's, I think, in a different kind of pathway a lot of people do it. But hopefully this makes things a little bit more clear from a high level overview rather than like bottom to top, which is a lot harder to ascertain as you're going through the game. I see a lot of people making mistakes and just, using green hammers on tanks, or thinking that that's the right thing to do, or like MLBing Minotaur necklaces rather than getting more than one. Or just completely forget, they're not understanding that they need to do option stones to max weapon damage, which is massive, or just not even understanding that weapon skill regen on Accessory is important. So, I mean, there's a lot of little things you can do to mess things up, but this should hopefully expand on it and give you a little bit more of a clear goal on what to expect and how to get into a better raiding guild, and just personally feel a good amount of progression from just kicking ass in the meters. But I guarantee you, like, for one, I'm on the KR, right? I am in a raid guild. I pretty much, like, from a freed account that's slightly over a year old, I have all the raiding characters, period, and all their X's. I spend no money on that account, and it's pretty damn fun to know that I'm in a guild that's not that super great, but like I can still get 700 million, which is pretty great in the raid rankings, and I don't spend money, and I feel pretty good about that little. I'd rather feel better about that than I do on my global account, that I can put up basically 9 million on a level 86 boss consistently, just because. And that's all knowledge. I executed the plan that I just gave you. I did it on the KR, and it just nets you good damage. And that could be you. That could totally be you. Like, it's possible, depending on where your account is, you can double your damage in one raid. So either way, hopefully that helps. If you found this information useful, if you want to give us your guildies, just tell them to subscribe. It helps me a little bit, and I can actually put the money into the site if I ever actually make a single dime off of YouTube, which is doubtful. But it's Guardian Tales, so who cares? It's a fun game. Either way, have a good one. Noogie out.